Joanne. And Joanne is joined today on the webinar by her colleague, Celine Alsura, who will be sticking with us through the webinar. So we thank them for their participation and their ongoing support for this program, as well as the Launchpad program. So at this point in time, I'll throw things over to our two leaders today who will be taking us through Online Together, Danielle Olson and Meg Saxby from Purpose Co. Thank you so much, Danielle and Meg.
Awesome. Thank you, Sophia, First Work team, and our colleagues from the ministry for joining today, and for all of your support of this work, which really shows the leadership of the province of Ontario in supporting capacity building in the employment and training sector. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And I know First Work is recording the session today. So if your colleagues are not able to be here, you'll be able to share the recording and the deck. As Sophia said, we are here to talk about Online Together, which is a 6-week applied professional development, capacity building program that is really focused on how to design and deliver online programs that seek to enhance and foster learning, resilience, and goal achievement of the people that we serve. And we will talk quite a bit more about that goal and how we do it in the program. But before that, Sophia said, my name is Danielle Olson, and I use the pronouns she and her. And I'm joined by my colleague, Meg.
Hi, everyone. My name is Meg Saxby. I also use she and her. Just so you know, I just got a message my internet is unstable, so I'm going to switch on to my hotspot, so I might get glitchy for a moment. But Danielle, if you want to introduce yourself, I will be back.
Sure. So my background is really exclusively workforce development. I've been in the sector for over 20 years, which is wild, and specifically designing workforce programs that seek to connect people, build skills, and then connect people to in-demand jobs. And Meg and I kind of joined forces earlier this year when COVID first occurred to put together Online Together, which was really bringing together, gosh, lots of togethers, bringing best practices in adult learning, as well as a number of non-clinical practices that seek to build resilience and confidence in people, and doing all of that through an online platform or an online delivery method. Meg, how's your internet?
I'm back. Yeah, so as Danielle said, we built this together. My background, I'm a social worker by training, and I also do a lot of work in adult education, and particularly work a lot with people who have not been able to be successful in traditional or conventional academic or learning settings. So we came together to build this course because there was a real need, I would say across all industries, but we really needed to figure out how can we deliver stuff online that's engaging and compelling for people, and it's also accessible to people who have experienced barriers, because most of the folks we work with in the employment and training sector have experienced that. I've also got a bit of a background in service delivery, frontline service delivery, mental health, newcomer services, and a variety of stuff like that.
Great.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you, Meg. Before we move into the content, we'd actually love to take a few minutes to use the chat and hear from you, and specifically hear from you where you are joining us from today, why you were interested in attending the webinar and in potentially participating in the course. And what, if anything, you're hoping to adapt or change in your programs. So we'll just take a few minutes. It's really helpful for us to hear from you because we can try to adapt our content. So we have Ha from Winnipeg. That's great, from the Success Skills Center. Agilek, Chantel, located in Oshawa. Lucy from Toronto. Shahina from PTP. That's great.
Branch, Thunder Bay, some Francophone representation. That's great. Cornwall, Kingston, wonderful. Hearst, we are really from a wide range of Ontario today. That's great.
Which is one of the really great things about First Work, in that you really create a provincial community and actually a national community, because we have representation from outside of the province, which is great. And some of you are also with organizations where your colleagues participated in the Online Together cohorts that we ran earlier this year, in April and then May and June, which is great. So perhaps you've heard a little bit from them as well. Yeah, Maureen said coming in with an open mind. Emily is providing services to individuals with disabilities. That's great. Feel free as we go through the presentation to put any questions you have in the chat. We will have time dedicated at the end for questions, but we're also going to try to answer your questions as we go. So don't hesitate to do that. Yes, Stacy said we're going to touch on this, whether to determine whether Launchpad or Online Together is best for us. So we're going to talk about that distinction specifically, because they're very complementary, but they're quite different. That's great. And Meg, if you can keep an eye on the chat as I'm talking, and then I'll trade off with you. So we don't miss anything. Christina said, hoping to learn more about client engagement strategies online and developing program materials that foster goal. Yeah, so that's great. Super. So what is Online Together? So this iteration, which is going into 2021 of Online Together, is a 6-week applied program. And it's really geared specifically for employment service providers to learn how to design and deliver applied online learning that fosters skill development, resilience, and goal achievement. And we would probably add confidence here between skill development and resilience, because they're very connected. The original delivery of Online Together was 4 weeks. And for a number of reasons, we've expanded it a little bit. We've included more content, particularly around trauma-informed practice that Meg will talk a little bit more about. And we've also provided more time for participants to actually work on their own modules, because, and we'll touch on this, a key part of the program is that all participants will develop their own online learning module, and then kind of workshop it and get feedback from peers. So the program itself is very applied and models a lot of the practices that we will be teaching. I guess the kind of not foundation, but like a key, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but like a key component of the program is really that we're teaching how to design and deliver. We're not giving a curriculum. So that's important to know. Like we're teaching methods that are best practices and have evidence behind them related to how to most effectively teach adults, and specifically adapted for online delivery. You could take the same methods in the future when we're delivering programming in person again, and deliver it in person. So the methods work in person and online, although we're teaching specifically how to adapt them for online delivery. And what you'll be able to do with the material that you'll be learning is either develop brand new content if you're seeking to, or adapt existing content. But the course itself will not be providing curriculum for you to deliver to your participants or your clients. So who should take the course? Based on that, folks who are working in employment and training, so employment and training practitioners who either design or deliver. We know a lot of practitioners who deliver workshops are also responsible for designing their own workshops. So you don't have to be a curriculum developer, primarily to take the course. Most of the participants in the two cohorts we ran earlier this year, and there were a total of about 90 people who participated in the two cohorts in April through June of this year. Most were frontline staff, employment counselors, folks who were responsible for delivering workshops, and in some cases, longer term programming like pre-apprenticeship to their clients. And really practitioners who are seeking to either enhance, again, current programming, and we are definitely of the belief that there's always room for improvement if we're looking at how to increase engagement, retention, and outcomes for our clients and our learners. And then, of course, also to learn how to and to enhance the practice of building new programs specifically for online delivery. So this is just a snapshot of the theory that underpins most of what we will be teaching in terms of the different tools and methods. So we call this the cognitive triangle for learning. And this, you don't have to worry about this now, but we wanted to kind of give you a sense of this theory when we are talking about how to build skills, confidence, and resilience in people. And Meg will talk more about this. A big part of what we'll be teaching is how to support applied learning through an online delivery method that is both building new knowledge for people, actually enabling people to be able to do a thing. So that's the applied or experiential side, and also supporting social and emotional learning. And most effective applied learning actually does all three, especially when done in groups and cohorts. So it's because we're seeking to address all three sides of the learning experience, so the cognitive, experiential, and social emotional, that we're better equipped to actually build confidence, motivation, emotional connection, and then resilience in the people that we're serving. So that's a little bit of the how that you would be learning more about in the program. And of course, we are delivering the program completely online. We're going to be modeling the practices and teaching particular practices or methods for you to do this online. Over to you, Meg.
Great. So I just want to pause before we talk a little bit about what specifically you're going to learn in this program, and ask if anyone has questions, or if there's anything Danielle said that you're not clear on, or that you'd like to respond to. And you can put that in the chat. And I'm just going to pause for 30 seconds or so to see what happens in the chat. And if nothing, then we'll keep going. This is one of the practices that we teach. It's very easy in person to sense when people have a question, but online it's not so easy. So we try to pause to give people a chance. Okay. If you're typing, keep typing. I'm just going to start working through this list. So one of the things that we heard a lot from within the employment and training sector, and I think this is true across a lot of sectors, is that we have problems with keeping people engaged in programming. That can be true in person. It's exceptionally true online, because those moments of disengagement, someone can kind of fall off a cliff in terms of engagement with your program. So one of the key aspects of this approach is we're using methods that increase engagement, that keep people motivated, and that helps them stay connected to your program and drives up your retention rates. So you'll notice as you're in this program, if you're choosing to participate in it, that we're doing a lot to keep people engaged, keep people motivated. We're doing very little lecturing. There's a lot of social and emotional learning, and all of those are methods that drive up engagement and retention. We're also, parallel to that, we're really working on applied learning. So that's experiential learning. So the difference is between learning something cognitively, maybe I understand how to write a resume, but I don't necessarily know how to do that. I can't necessarily bring that into action. Applied learning is, how do you bring it into action? You need to know it cognitively, you need to feel confident to be able to do it, and then you need to actually go through the steps to build or do the thing, and possibly troubleshoot, ask for help. So you are going to be learning how to develop and deliver an online module that guides people towards doing something, and ideally helps them do it, and then comes back and gives them an opportunity to troubleshoot and talk about how it went. We're also going to be teaching you to integrate program elements that build participant accountability. This is connected to engagement and motivation and retention. There's a lot of techniques that you can use to build people's accountability, and not just accountability in a kind of a stick way, but also in a carrot way. So we're also talking about, how do we make people want to continue? How can we show them what they're getting out of the program so that they have that intrinsic motivation to continue? And then the last bullet on this slide is, we're going to be talking a lot about how do we integrate a trauma-informed lens. And the reason we do this, we'll talk a little bit more about this later, is that many of the people we work with, you know, they're having trouble finding or keeping a job, and that's what we might see. But underneath that, there has often been a lot of experiences of harm and exclusion. And so a trauma-informed lens makes sure that our programs are accessible to learners like this, or job seekers like this, because that's actually quite a few of the people that we're serving, particularly the people who are long-term unemployed. So I'm going to pause before the next one again, and just, if anyone has questions, you can put them in the chat.
Yeah.
Yes, that PowerPoint is going to be coming to you afterwards, so you can look through it with your team. Another technique you're going to be learning how to do, maybe you already do this, so it'll be a chance for you to share with each other and maybe add new practices to it, is learning to use strengths-based needs assessments that boost motivation within programs. So actually, as you're doing the assessment and your initial intake, you can use that as an opportunity to enhance people's motivation and help them succeed in your program and in their lives. You're also going to be working on developing clear, relevant, and very powerful learning objectives that guide your program design. So this is really crucial. When we're delivering online, we don't really have time to do excess stuff that doesn't immediately track to people's learning. We need to be really targeted, and learning objectives help us do that. And then the last thing, we're going to be practicing a lot and learning a lot about giving and receiving feedback. So that's important for your clients, it's important for you, it's important for all of us. And we're going to be really using that as a machine to enhance our own learning and enhance our products that we're developing. So you'll be giving feedback to each other, you'll also be getting a lot of feedback. It's very experiential in that way. All right. I'm going to pause again. So talking about program content in particular, you remember that triangle that we showed at the beginning about the cognitive elements of experience, social, emotional, and behavioral or applied? So the training module that you are going to be designing is going to hit all three sides of that triangle. And that's how you create lasting impact. We can learn something cognitively, but until we feel emotionally engaged in it, until we actually have experience doing it, that kind of learning doesn't tend to stick. We're also going to be helping you, and you're going to be helping each other to design a course and a module that has very clear objectives in terms of what you want people to be able to do as a result of your program. And then finally, your programming is going to help people build confidence, resilience, and retention, or the ability to stay engaged. So these are kind of your three, if you want to think about it, your three key outcomes, learning outcomes that you will get from participating in Online Together. Danielle, is there anything you want to add?
I'm just looking at the comments here.
Ha has just asked a question. Are we going to learn the techniques on how to design the program that engages the participants? Yeah, absolutely. So that's very a big part of what we're going to be learning, and you're going to learn them both by participating as learners. So we're going to model them, and then we're going to talk about them, and then you're going to learn them that way. And then you'll also learn them in terms of, we'll be giving you informing theory. Try this, do that. This is a good practice. So we'll both be learning by doing and by reading or thinking about it, hearing about it. Do we have to provide our program for evaluation by you two? Danielle, so last time, well, I won't speak to what we did last time. Let's talk about what we're going to do this time. That might
So we're going to get to the kind of the structure. So not for evaluation, but in order to get the certificate, you will need to submit your module, and we will offer feedback, but only to folks who want it, which is actually not something we did last time. So to get your certificate, you do have to submit the module that you'll be working on progressively throughout the course. You will also, and this is, maybe more related to your question, you will present it, or at least a portion of it, and get feedback from your peers. Yeah. And at that point, you'll also get some feedback from the instructor or the facilitator, but it will be largely an opportunity to get feedback from your colleagues. Go ahead, Meg.
Interesting, because the reason that initially we didn't provide that feedback, and people were troubled and hurt by that, because they had worked really hard on their modules and they wanted feedback. So now it's up to you. If you want the feedback, we will give it, and if you don't, we won't.
How many will be accepted into the program? So for the course that's starting on January 18th, which is the current, we're actually running 2 cohorts simultaneously. So over the same period of time, each cohort is capped at 25 people. And there's a lot of small breakout work. So you will also be working in small groups that we'll talk a little bit more about. But so there will be 50 people accepted from across Ontario to the January 18th date. We will, if we receive, there is an application, which we're also going to get to. It's pretty straightforward. It's largely to really learn about your goals, and to also make sure that folks who are signing up are the one, like, we'll get to that part maybe in the application, but there will be a wait list. However, if we receive more than 50 applicants, and the intention is to deliver the course throughout next year, actually, but it is first come, first serve. So we'll cap the January intake off at 50 and then create the wait list.
There's another question. Do we know about continuing education units associated with completing this training?
Do you mean CE credits with a particular institution?
It sounds like that. The VRA.
No, not at this point. Not at this point. The cost. Go ahead, Meg.
Oh, I was just going to respond to the cost question.
So in the spring, we delivered the course at a discounted rate that I believe was $350 a person. Now, and that was discounted because of the relationship with First Work and the need. However, the province has generously, in collaboration with First Work, committed to supporting the cost. So there's actually no cost to participation to any of the agencies. So we think it's a really great opportunity. But again, there's a finite number of seats, and that's why we're really encouraging folks who are interested to apply, so we can get you in, and if not in January, then make sure you get into another cohort next year. Yeah, no, it is really great that the province is supporting this. If there are 2 to 3 staff from an organization, does everyone have to submit their own application? Yes. The application is not long. You'll see it on First Works website. It's really just getting a sense of what your goals are. It's not rigorous at all. What we found in the spring intake was that agencies in many cases bought a group of seats. So they bought 5 seats, let's say, for their teams. And as a result, individual participants, individual learners in the program were not always familiar with what they were signing up for. So this is actually a really great practice in any program to strengthen enrollment on the front end. So the application is not burdensome, but yes, everyone has to do it. And you are not like, if you have a team of colleagues, this certainly happened in the earlier courses, who want to participate together. And in that case, they actually also collaborated on their assignments, like their workshop development. That's great as well.
We have two more questions about logistics. I just want to kind of put an anchor in those, and we'll talk a little bit more about content. And at the end, we're going to talk about the schedule. We're also going to talk, Stacy, about the difference between Online Together and Launchpad. So see your questions, and we'll return them in probably 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so our next slide, this is just to go a little bit deeper in some of the content, although I'm happy to see people talking about logistics, because that means that you're interested and excited. Can you take me to the next slide, Danielle?
Yeah, sorry. Yes.
No problem. These are some of the methods we're going to be showing you, and you're going to be practicing and playing with and integrating. Peer support methods, these are really well demonstrated in the research. This is a huge part of how we keep people engaged in anything, is peer support and belonging. Linked to that, we're delivering content to a cohort. So there's a lot of benefits to that. Particularly the relationships amongst the peers. There's many reasons we use cohorts. Applied learning, so that's experiential learning, learning to do a thing rather than learning about a thing. Many of us come out of cognitive learning backgrounds. That's what school tends to be, but applied learning is actually much more of what we need as adults in the workforce. We're going to use a lot of discussion and reflection. You're going to be asked to share your thoughts. And then the last piece is trauma-informed practice. This is a huge part of bolstering resilience and helping people stay connected to our programming, even when, or perhaps especially when they have experienced or are currently experiencing harm. Mm-hmm. These are some of the ways that we're going to be working on these 3 areas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, and I'm cognizant of all the questions coming in on the chat, so please keep them coming, and we are going to come back to them and make sure that they get answered. Why trauma informed? I think we've talked about this a lot already, but just to reiterate, you know, lack of work or lack of long-term employment is often one of the things that can be kind of a symptom of experiences of harm. And so people may end up in our service because they need a job or they need to keep a job, but there's a lot that has gone on beforehand. And our services are not trauma specific, right? It's not our role to help people process that. But what the research does show is that when people have workforce attachment, they also have social belonging, and that helps them to heal. So it's important to have trauma-informed services because those kinds of services enable job seekers who have histories of harm to get the first step, which is sustainable livelihood, decent wages, things like that are going to actually help them stabilize their lives. So trauma-informed practices make it easier for our most vulnerable clients to achieve success. They also make it easier for all of our clients to achieve success. I think about it a lot as like a ramp for a wheelchair. It's really crucial if you're in a wheelchair, but even if you're not in a wheelchair, it can still be helpful because you might be pushing a stroller, you might be pushing a shopping cart, you might just prefer to walk up a ramp, and everyone can use a ramp. So it's a little bit like that. Okay. Finally, we're going to offer some technology tutorials. This might be second nature to you folks by now, but we'll be really helping you learn how to deliver things on online platforms. So that includes Zoom, we can use Slack, we can use Facebook. There's a lot of different platforms, and we give you specific tutorials on these tools so that you can spend a bit of time with someone who really knows about them and ask questions without worrying that you're slowing everything down. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Just a note here, the other tutorials that we included earlier this year were Google Classroom and WebEx.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do these based on demand because the need was different in April and April, May, and June. But we will definitely make them available if there is a need. We received some questions after the Launchpad tutorial about specific technology platforms.
Yeah.
So we are intentionally using platforms that are low cost and reliable. So, and there is definitely intent behind it. Reliability is a big factor. And of course, if there's a technology out there that we think works well and is relatively affordable, and is reliable, that's the recommendation we're making. So WebEx, Google Classroom fall into that category. You can certainly take the methods we're teaching. If you have your own LMS, that is, participants have to log in and it's specific to your agency, you can use the same methods we're teaching on any online live delivery platform. And you can also take them and create blended learning where participants are maybe watching some videos on their own as part of their homework, and then coming to a live space with a facilitator and a cohort of colleagues. So that's just a note on the technology that we'll be using, but you can transfer the methods to any technology platform or tool. I think our colleague from the ministry, Celine, left. So this note, I think, is from them, which is great for the engagement.
Okay.
So
yeah, do you want to cover this one, Danielle, the difference between OT and Launchpad?
So the programs are quite different. And for folks who did not attend the Launchpad webinar last week, First Work, I think, has sent it out, and maybe I'll ask our First Work colleagues whenever they can to just tell us where the webinar, so the webinar, thanks, Akosua, is available online on First Work's website, so you can watch it there. So Launchpad is an intensive 16-week program that is really designed to teach teams from an agency, so teams of 2 to 3 people, how to design a pre-employment program that is preparing people for specific in-demand jobs. So although we include a lot of the elements around adult learning best practices, trauma-informed practice, integrating an anti-racism, anti-oppression lens, motivation, there's a number of other things that we cover in Launchpad, a little bit more intensively than we do in Online Together, just because of the amount of time we are together. Gosh, the word of the day. What is really unique about Launchpad is that you're learning a method of building relationships with employers and then doing the analysis and the program design based on the requirements of specific in-demand jobs. Whereas Online Together is really about how to design learning in a way that does the things we talked about, that builds engagement, skill development, motivation, confidence, and resilience. So our program, Online Together, is not content specific. You could be developing one module. You could be developing a program for a cohort over a number of weeks. You'll learn that we are biased towards cohort-based learning, and that's what we talk about. So Online Together is a lower time commitment, which we'll get into. It's only 6 weeks, and it's 3 to 4 hours a week, whereas Launchpad is 6 to 8 hours a week. And the organizational commitment of Launchpad is much greater, because as an agency, you're committing to essentially design a new program. Whereas with Online Together, you're not doing that. It's really more traditional professional development. Thanks, Kos. Akosua just put the webinar for Launchpad in the chat.
So Stacy's question was, if we apply for OT and you feel our goals are more suited for LP, will you refer us? Yeah, I mean, we can do that. I think based on Danielle's description, it's thinking about perhaps starting with the less time commitment. You know more than we do about your schedule and your agency's capacity right now. My suggestion would start with Online Together, unless you really want to go for Launchpad, in which case. But when are the applications due for Launchpad, Danielle?
The applications for Launchpad are due on December 2nd.
Okay, yeah.
The other, I think, thing I would suggest is, if you know your organization wants to deliver a program in the next year that is preparing people for specific jobs in your community, seriously think about Launchpad. It is it gives you much, much, much more on that specific topic. If you are not committed to that, I would not do it, because it is a big commitment, which is why we're looking for organizations that really have that goal. Whereas Online Together is appropriate for any practitioner who's delivering programming to adult learners, particularly more vulnerable adult learners. Okay.
Some questions on the schedule. Oh, here we go.
Online Together is 2 hours a week of what we're calling like live programming, and approximately like 1 to 2 hours a week of independent work. It's the 2 hours of live programming will be a 1 hour teaching call delivered via video conferencing a week, and a 1 hour peer call. They're both required. They will both be scheduled. The peer calls will be smaller groups. In the first iteration of Online Together, we did 2 live calls a week, and we did the second one largely through breakouts. And we've done a lot of surveys and evaluations, including some recent interviews with OT alumni, and really heard that the breakouts were really powerful for folks. So we've put more structure around a peer call, which will still be building on the same. They will be structured calls with content associated with the teaching call. And then the independent work is a combination of related readings. There's not too many readings, and then the development of your module. For the January cohort, this was a question in the chat, we do have the dates scheduled, which is 2 hours of, sorry, I already said the 2 hours of delivery, but on Tuesdays from 1 to 2, and 3 to 4 on Thursday. So it's Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 2 and 3 to 4. And because it's basically 2 hours each, so it's like Tuesday and Thursday from 1 to 2, and Tuesday and Thursday from 3 to 4, because there's the 2 cohorts happening. So if 1 to 2 is better for you or 3 to 4 is better for you, you'll be able to pick. So it's 4 hours a week. We received a few questions around like the number of applicants and applicants from outside of Ontario. If you are outside of Ontario, please contact First Work. This program the way we're offering it right now is with the support of the Ontario government. However, similar to what we did earlier this year, our goal is to support the sector. And that's certainly First Work's goal. So we want to explore options with you if you're outside of Ontario. The application is on First Work's website. Organizations can send multiple people. We do not currently have a cap on the number of people per agency. Earlier this year, we had teams of up to I think 8 people per agency. And in that case, the agencies were buying the seats. I would encourage you to get your applications in now, so that you're able to hold those seats. Just because there will be a finite number over the course of next year, and we anticipate there will be more demand than we're able to fully meet, which is why we're doing this nice and early. Also, if I can ask someone from the First Work team to confirm the deadline for the OT, the Online Together application. It's the week after the, the 9th?
Yes.
Thank you. So the Launchpad application is December 2nd, and the Online Together application is December 9th. So we've already covered this, that certificates will be issued to those who complete the capstone project, which is the development of the learning module. and that the program will include demoing your program or your module and receiving feedback from colleagues. So in terms of requirements, so you'll notice the application, again, it's not rigorous. It's really to understand you and your goals. The requirements are really the ability to dedicate the 3 to 4 hours a week for 6 weeks. We will not be able to offer like makeup classes. So certainly if there's an emergency, which happens, we would do our best to accommodate somebody to participate in like a future course. Like if they cannot for some reason continue on, we would be flexible. However, we really are looking for a commitment to the 6 weeks and the 4 hours a week, which will support certainly your learning and also your colleagues learning, access to the internet because it is delivered online. So certainly, if internet is poor in some communities, you don't have to use your video, although it's helpful when we can see each other. So we can provide those accommodations, but you do need access to the internet. An interest really in learning and sharing with peers, even for more introverted, shy participants. We found that was really powerful, and that was the feedback that we received, and a willingness to maybe stretch outside of the comfort zone if it is uncomfortable, to share your work and receive feedback from peers, because that's a part of a component of the program. So thank you. I didn't put the deadline in here. So it's December the 9th. However, the application is up now, so you can apply right now, and it will be up until the 9th. The course is actually, the Tuesday is the 19th. So I said the 18th, which is the Monday. So it actually runs from January 19th to the 25th. And applications outside of the criteria we described already, which is the ability to commit the time and the interest that aligns with the course, it really is a first come, first serve application. So we're not reviewing applications based on other criteria. And that's it. So we will have an opportunity to answer all of the other questions and take additional questions. Now, Meg, is there anything I missed?
No, I just want to check with Jacinth that we clarified their question was about the deadline is December 9th, but you said first come, first serve. Does that mean you're evaluating questions that come in or applications that come in first? Yes, the spots could potentially be full before the deadline. Danielle, is the question?
Yes, and that's why to be equitable, that's why we've said first come, first serve, because if we have more than 50 applicants on December 9th, we will accept them at the when they came in, basically, to be most equitable.
Renee is asking, have the Launchpad seats already been filled?
No, not completely. We have applications in. We are also going to be running multiple cohorts next year. So there will be another cohort after January. We just don't have the dates confirmed. So that's why we will take a wait list. And we will get back to everybody who applies if the course does get waitlisted, to give you a sense of those timelines and work with you so we can accommodate as many people as possible.
Bethany also asked to clarify the timing. So I tried to explain that in the chat, but just checking. So basically you choose either you want to be in the 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. or the 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. So these are two separate cohorts.
Yeah.
And then either one of those, you have to be in both the Tuesday and the Thursday call.
Yes. And those are the dates and times for the January course. If those times do not work for you, actually tell us, like when you write into First Work. And if that's the case, we will try to accommodate, again, schedule-wise throughout the year with future cohorts. So the application, Hanan, is on FirstWorks website, and it was pasted in the chat by Shifat. So it's firstwork.org/training. And if you scroll up in the chat, you'll see it there. And there were, so Ontario, out of Ontario applications, please contact us. There is not a limit at the moment in terms of the number of people per agency. I wanted to share a few testimonials or anecdotes that we've heard from alumni, if we have time, but wanted to give folks the opportunity to ask other questions too. Shifa, Lisa's saying that they don't see the application for Online Together, only Launchpad. Oh, Shifa, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Danielle, can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
I will look for it again on the website and also paste it here.
Okay, thank you.
What I can do, if that's okay, is I can share my screen and just go over to show you guys where and the links, if that works.
That's great.
Okay. So I'm just going to take a quick moment to share my screen.
Maybe while you do that, Akosua, I'll share. So we collected feedback from the Online Together alumni shortly after delivering the courses earlier this year in April, May, and June. And we heard feedback where the participants were able, and this was obviously early days in transitioning to online delivery, where stress levels were also, I think, a lot higher, but participants were able to pivot and deliver their programming online, and actually said that in some cases they felt they had better retention in some cases of participants. Some of the trauma-informed practices that they implemented, they definitely attributed to retention. And these are practices that you will learn about in the course related to providing more autonomy and choice to participants or to clients. There were also kind of early outcomes in terms of employment. So folks were both completing the courses or the programs that were being delivered online, and the organizations were also noting that they were going into jobs. So we have not tracked the participant outcomes from Online Together yet, but those are some of the anecdotes. And this is a Kosovo screen.
Oh, yes, thank you. So just to share where it is, you'll see if you go under training right there, there are both the trainings as well as the webinars for each. So in case your colleagues want to watch it and to get an understanding, click on the webinars and you'll have the webinar from Launchpad as well, because that's already up there. So if you go right to the bottom, and I just want to show this to folks, it has the registration for the webinar today. And then if you click here, you click there and it'll open up the application form. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing now.
Great.
I think that covers that piece.
Great. We are hoping, part of the application asks for your supervisor's name. So we are hoping that you will have support from your supervisor with the goal of getting the time to do the course. That's the reason we ask that. If that's an issue and you don't think you'll have your supervisor's support, I would actually ask you or suggest that you still do the application and just note how you would accommodate the time. Because we know some people who took the course earlier this year did it independently to support their own professional development, and they budgeted the time. So if that's the case, we certainly still encourage you to do to apply and to participate. Any questions? And if you have a question and you'd like to unmute yourself, you can also raise your hand and we can unmute you.
Oh, hi, I don't know if you can hear me.
Ha, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll still come back to the question that we are from Winnipeg. So are we going to be considered for the online program?
So Ha, can you write to Shifat? Shifat, do you mind putting your email in the chat. And that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Send Shifat a note and
Okay.
we'll get back to you by Monday. Like first work, we'll get back to you just with an answer, and that still gives you over a week to apply because we do want to accommodate. So thank you for raising the question.
Thank you very much. I'm very interested in the program, actually. Sounds very good. That's exactly what we're looking for.
Well, that's really great feedback. And we're also really,
Yeah, we've been delivering the online, but we need more the techniques, how to do engagement. Yeah, participants and motivations. Those kind of things is really interesting. And the short course. Yeah, we like it. I like it.
that's great. How many folks, do you know how many people from your organization would be interested?
Would be 2.
Okay.
Yeah, we have 4, but the other 2 is engaging in other also intensive program, and I think 2 would be interested. But for myself, I'm very interested.
That's great.
And like sorry, Ha. Like Ha was saying, if you can do it with a colleague, that's great because you can share the work, and you can also use the approaches together in your agency, which will make it easier for other people in your agency to start using the approaches. So
Yes,
it's possible.
That's great. I'm going to convince my coworker then.
Great.
And I think we have support from my supervisor for sure. She encouraged us to participate in the program, and she also found that the program is very interesting.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ha. So email Shifat and we'll get back to you by Monday. There's there's a question from Chandon. And it says, when they navigate to the Online Together application, it says registration is closed.
Just to clarify, Chanjan, you might be hitting on the webinar button. So you just need to move further down to the apply here, and then that application form is open and you can register there. And if you're having any problems with it, just send me a quick message and we can go through it together.
We have 5 minutes left. Are there any other questions?
I'd like to have the name of the person that I'm going to send. Shifat.
Yeah, I'll put her name in there one more time as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, shifat@firstwork.org. And if you are not looking at the chat, if you go to the bottom of your screen, there's a button that says chat. And if you click on it, you can view the comments in the chat. Yeah, so there's a question here that says, so the OT course, when registering, you could work with a coworker in the course, correct? So yes, although you both have to do applications. It's very short. So, and we use some of that information in your like baseline assessment. So we'd be asking those questions anyway, once you're accepted into the course. Nubia said, I've applied. Is there anything else I need to do? No. Thank you. That's great. And we have posted online, and I apologize for not including this in the presentation. You will hear back from us by December 18th. So you will know by December 18th, basically, if you're starting on January 19th. You will also have a workbook mailed to you. So these are some of the perks that our colleagues from the first courses did not have, partially because of logistics, and we were just moving so fast. But there is a workbook that will come to you in the mail in early January if you're starting on the January 18th date or January 19th date.
Oh, I have a question then. I saw that Nubia is also from us. So in that case, maybe we have 4 instead of maybe 4 instead of 2?
That's
Can
great.
we all apply it?
Let us, just because you're outside of Ontario and the program is being supported by the Ontario government, that's the only reason we're gonna wait to get back to you. So stay tuned. And when do you hear back about Launchpad? Same day, Stacy. So actually no, Launchpad you hear sooner. So there are interviews actually for Launchpad, which is part of why the application deadline is December the 2nd. The reason there are applications is because it is a larger commitment, or rather the reason there are interviews. However, you will still hear back after the interviews by December 18th. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
just a
great.
condensed
But,
period of time.
but if we can only interested in one, right? Online would be okay.
Yep. No, they're separate programs.
Okay.
We actually had people from agencies do both. So we have somebody who participated in Online Together in June. She had a really good experience, and her agency team participated in the Launchpad pilot in July. So you're not precluded. They are reinforcing and complementary in the ways we noted, but they are standalone as well.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Katie is saying, can I register now under my own name and transfer to one of my staff team later? It's not ideal. If you want to reserve the seat, it's really not ideal because we're still going to ask your colleague to do their own application because we want to know what their goals are, basically. So they would still have to do that. If you're planning to hire someone who's not already on your team, maybe write to First Work, write to Shifat about that. So we're mindful of your commitment to participate. Does that make sense, Katie? Awesome.
You can also have the person apply later on and they could be on the wait list for a future cohort. So that's another way if they aren't quite on staff yet.
Yeah. And when we say the future cohorts, we are talking about 2021. So not in like out years. We just don't have the additional dates confirmed yet.
Last question, it's 12 noon. Stacy's saying if you were to do one before the other, would you recommend Online Together before Launchpad? They have pretty different outcomes. I would recommend Online Together because it's shorter and you'll get a flavor, you'll get a taste, and then you can use those skills in Launchpad. But as Danielle said, it depends on your agency's priorities because Launchpad actually takes you through designing a whole new program in collaboration with an employer. Yeah, so my recommendation would be to start with the easy one, but they're quite different.
Great. So we're at the hour. Thank you so much to everyone for joining, for your interest, for your commitment to this work. And professional development, I think, and this is a bias, I think is the best investment you can make in yourself, or like personal development even. But it really speaks to your leadership and your commitment to this work, that you are interested in capacity building and professional development, and your comments and your questions were great. So thank you, and we look forward to reading your applications and hopefully working with you next year.
Thank you very much, Danielle and Mac.
Thanks.
Excellent presentation.
Thank you for representing our colleagues from across Canada.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good lunch, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank
Or
you.
later.
Goodbye.